Welcome once again to Fire Emblem February. This is the month that's entirely devoted to Nintendo's strategy RPG that I love so much. Last time, I gave a brief history of the early days of Fire Emblem and how it reached Western shores. Today I'll be covering the first game that was localized for the rest of the world. This is Fire Emblem. I mentioned in the previous episode that it was the appearance of Marth and Roy in Super Smash Bros. Melee that would give way to the world's interest in Fire Emblem. But while Marth is more or less Fire Emblem's mascot now, Roy actually hadn't even debuted in the series yet. Roy's appearance in Melee was a marketing attempt to get people hyped for his upcoming game. In Japan. Fire Emblem The Binding Blade, or Sword of Seals if you want to split hairs on translations, was an upcoming Fire Emblem game for the Game Boy Advance. The game itself was well received, but unfortunately, due to stat reasons, Roy is considered one of the worst lords in the series. This is why you're left out of Brawl, Roy. Binding Blade would receive a prequel as the next entry in the franchise, Fire Emblem Reka no Kin, or the fan translation as we're going to call it, Blazing Sword. This game would detail the land of Alib years before Roy was even born, and chronicled the adventures of his father, Elijah Wood. Now I want you to imagine seeing this poster as an American. You've never played Fire Emblem before, and the only characters that you know about from this game are those two non-English speaking guys from Super Smash Bros. Some of us were confused. Whoa, Fire Emblem? This is the Fire Emblem? Who's the ginger guy with the sword? Is that Roy? Is that Roy guy? Alright, well who's the steroided lumberjack? Is that Marth? Wait, maybe this person is Marth. I mean, sure, their hair is kind of long, and they've got some really fine legs and the boobles, but maybe it's just the figure he's got, man. You can't judge him for that. For the international release, Blazing Sword was dropped from the title completely, and the game was just called Fire Emblem. This was probably done as an attempt to not confuse Western buyers, since this was the 7th game in the series. Blazing Sword follows Roy's father-to-be, Eliwood, and his two faithful companions, Lyn and Hector. Eliwood's father has gone missing, and the young red-headed lord sets out to go and find him, kicking off a plot that would of course result in the trio saving the world. But how could these schmucks possibly do any of this without you, oh wise and omnipotent player? That's right, there's actually a fourth main character that is the Tactician, a silent protagonist that is meant to represent the player themselves. This character is supposed to justify why characters are moving in certain ways across the board and why you can see enemy movements themselves. Because, you know, you need more justification to a war game other than, oh god, this man has an axe, and he just stabbed him in the face. Tactician's a main character, but plot-wise they're largely unrelated and unnecessary. In fact, they don't even participate in any of the major cutscenes, and conversations with the Tactician are handled like a Dora the Explorer episode. Every once in a while, one of the other characters will talk to you and remind us that you're there, but any response you might have given isn't verbalized. We only ever see the other character's reaction. Hey Mark, what do you think of the enemy ahead? Eliwood, I swear to God, you are almost max level and you have 10 strength. If you don't put in some effort soon, I am gonna start force feeding you energy rings. The Fire Emblem Leap series, that being Fire Emblem 6 and 7, also introduced the most popular and well-known mechanic in the series, the support mechanic. In these games, characters had relationship values with the other specific characters. If they ended a turn near each other on the battlefield, their values would go up and eventually trigger a support conversation. With each conversation, the characters would build a stronger bond that would go all the way from C rank to A rank, and with each rank came various stat bonuses for fighting alongside each other. Furthermore, if certain characters reached an A rank with each other, after the game was over, the two of them would get married, and there was much rejoicing. The support system gave depth to otherwise uninteresting characters, since only a handful of characters actually interacted with the main plot, and Fire Emblem games have a huge cast of playable units. Support conversations were the only way to find out more about the individuals. This made the cast more interesting and relatable, and it's really what set Fire Emblem apart from other strategy games. Every character has a personality, a background, a motive for fighting. Your archer isn't just some random unit that you can send off to die. He's a familiar face that has a family back home and wants to become a father, and you just really want him to live. Live, damn it! It's true that other Fire Emblem games used relationship values in the past, but none were as involved as the support system is. In older games like Fire Emblem 4, characters could romance each other and get married, but this didn't serve any real purpose other than to churn out a kid to use later in the game. The support system was different because we really got to look into what made this character tick. Combine all this with the permanent death mechanic and you get attached to people pretty quick. Support levels with units were only achieved if characters ended their turns next to each other on the battlefield. This often took a long time and a lot of turns before they would rank up. Also, you keep getting units throughout the entire game, so if you want to see a late game character supports, be prepared to waste a lot of time.
What's happening?
Thank you, Chef Dan. I missed everybody.
Thank you.
This has been awesome. Thanks, have a laugh.
What are we doing?
Red comes with.
Are we videotaping right now?
Rachel, I really felt the wheels were coming up.
Can I help you with something?
Finally, all characters only get 5 conversations each playthrough, so you have to decide early on who you want your character to A rank with, because mathematically it's impossible to do it with more than one person. Maybe it's because it was the first Fire Emblem game released internationally, but Blazing Sword probably spends more time than any other Fire Emblem game holding your hand when it comes to learning about the game's mechanics. The entire first act is about 10 chapters of playing through Lynn's own personal story and learning how the game works. Whether you like it or not. This isn't so bad if you've never played a Fire Emblem game, and since this was the first one to get a Western release, it's mostly forgivable. But I don't want to turn Wallace into a general yet. He's level 12, come on, man! Thankfully, you can skip Lynn's story completely if you beat the game, so that's nice. After you beat Lynn's story, Eliwood takes the mantle of main character, and you start following him around. Turns out his dad, the Lord of Foray, has gone missing, and Eliwood wants to find him. Along the way, he runs into his good friend Hector, and later on, Lynn joins the party as well. And so the three set off to stop a nefarious plot by an evil, deformed villain that wants to bring back dragons to the world. Along the way, they make new friends and allies, and learn a lot of important lessons, like how ugly people are always evil. Green-haired men like to laugh off screen, and if you meet a beefed-up, shirtless guy in the desert, he's probably a swell dude. Ultimately, you'll end up saving the day and setting up the horrible events of the previous game to take place. Fire Emblem Blazing Sword remains a classic in the series to this day and is held very high regard into the fandom. If you want to play out the game for yourself, you should check out the Nintendo eShop where you can get it for cheap. Just, don't expect the ending of the game to make much sense if you have no knowledge of the previous game. Since this game was made as a prequel to Roy's story, there's lots of events and characters that are set up throughout it that won't really have much impact on those of us that live outside Japan. You could always play the fan translation, but that'll require you to emulate it. And emulation's illegal.
I need your help to stop Swiper. You have to say, Swiper, no swiping.
Fucking go left! God damn it, you Chinese bitch!